man, I'm good at this. And people started taking notice. My nickname is Scott Free, and my other friend, his nickname is Fatty. So when we were together, we called our DJ group Fat Free Productions.
Oh, okay, I like that. They knew who I was. I didn't have lots of money, so I had to like save my money to go and buy records, or I would take them out from the library.
I just had this natural ability. I'm like scratching, doing my transformers and everything.
No.
This is the battle mixer, the DJM S11.
Mm-hmm. These things are tanks, man.
I'm Scott DeVore. My close friends call me Free. You are watching the Free Factor podcast. I am with a special guest, Jesus Vivar, aka DJ PM. How you doing, Jesus?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here, Scott. Thank you so much.
We are in your home, or I guess your business home. We're down in Mix Theory Studios. So this is downtown Jacksonville, right in Bay Street. We are in a podcast / music / video / all types of slashes for this production. We're going to talk a little bit about the studio, your background, your upbringing, kind of a unique bond that we have. You know, I used to DJ back in the day. You're an actual real DJ. I was just pretending to be one. But you also have a mentorship program with DJing. And I recently became a student, a mentee to you as a mentor. We're going to talk about that. We have actually some new gear that I bought since I started, practicing and getting on some turntables. It's been 20 plus years. We might do a little preview of some of the stuff I bought, but we're just going to kind of tell the story, show a little bit about the studio. We're going to have some B-roll kind of sprinkled in through and through. We might actually get on to, your gear and just kind of turn on the Techniques 1200s and the mixer and the Serato and all that. But for those who don't know who you are, let's just kind of do a high level 60-second, who you are, and then I'm going to kind of go to the origin and kind of tell that story from the very beginnings, the origins of you, where you're from, to where you are as an entrepreneur and as a where you are in your career as a DJ and all that stuff.
Well, thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. I am Jesus Vivar, and I am known as DJ PM. I'm a DJ by profession over 25 plus years. And I am the CEO of Mix Theory Studios, which is a multimedia recording studio here in Jacksonville. We record podcasts, videos, music videos. We create original music. We help businesses and entrepreneurs with their creative content. We record artists, so we can do recordings with original music as well. And we also do placements for different kinds of commercials and different content like that. So
awesome. So you're originally from New York.
Born and raised.
Right, so you can tell with the Yankee hat, but also, you're always fresh, man. You always got the fits going. You got the green shoes to match the green shirt. You're always wearing some real fly socks too. I forgot to say that last time.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So it all started in New York, but I guess before your story is your parents' story, because they were immigrants to the U.S. So where are they from and how they get to the States?
They're from Ecuador originally. Both my parents came, back in the early 70s. My mom and my dad both met in Ecuador. Here in the States, in New York, through some Ecuadorian friends that they had. So
Nice.
I was born in 76, just to show you my age, man. So
yeah, 76. I'm 79. We're Gen X. From the same decade. So that's awesome. Now, what part of New York are you from?
Manhattan. 105th Street and Broadway was where I started my childhood, and then we kept going north. Went up from 105 to 139th Street, which is kind of close to Washington Heights, Harlem, okay. Spanish Harlem. And then we ended up in Westchester, in Yonkers, in my teen years. So.
Gotcha. So you've been in Florida for a little bit now. So we will kind of get to that, but how long have you been away from New York?
I left in 2000 and I would say around 2011, 2012. Okay. I was living in the Poconos for a few years before, and I was actually commuting from Pennsylvania to New York City for my gigs in the city. And then we ended up moving to Wichita, Kansas, and I was out there for 8.5 years before Wichita. I came here.
Midwest. Is that Midwest?
That is the Midwest, okay. Yeah. It's they don't say this, but it's a very windy city. Wichita, Kansas is super flat. So
there's tornadoes.
Tornadoes,
right? Kansas,
yes.
What's that show? The Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You're not in Kansas anymore yet. Yeah. Shout out to Kansas and Wichita. I have met a lot of great people out there, and some amazing DJs too. And the industry, the nightlife out there is amazing.
Okay. So you're from New York, Manhattan, North Manhattan, close to Washington Heights. Now, what was like the growing up, born in the 70s, I guess in the 80s is when a lot of your early influences started to take root. When did you get into DJing? Like, tell that story. You know, how did you get introduced to, wanting to actually cut up on some turntables?
So growing up in the city, one of the main things I will say is that I was always surrounded by music, and that goes a lot to both my parents, because my dad is a drummer. He plays the timbales. He used to play in the Spanish Latin jazz band, and my mom loves to dance. So there was always music playing in our house, and it was just a variety of music. It was obviously Latin influences obviously from both my parents, but my dad played with a lot of different players, and he showed me a lot of different music. He exposed me to a variety of music. And growing up in the 70s and 80s in New York, I mean, it's just a big melting pot. So I was always surrounded by, especially when break beats and freestyle and breakdancing and hip hop started to really come out. I used to see a lot of people, the kids in the streets, just dancing, in the corner, breaking moves on a cardboard box,
Yeah.
and the DJs would be in the streets throwing out live parties. It was always a party, and there was always a street or a corner you'd be walking, there was always music blasting. So that's kind of how I got exposed to, the music, as far as, getting inspiration to either learn how to dance or be in that kind of environment where there was a DJ, and playing music and live music and stuff. So
So 80. So this is the 80s. So Cool Mo D, KRS-One, Run DMC, LL, all those guys, were they kind of regular artists that you listen to?
Yeah, I mean, when they started to come out with, cassette tapes is when I finally started to really get my own music, and I got into hip hop, through my cousin Omar, rest his soul. He actually was the one that he played EPMD's first album for me, and I listened to it for the first time, and it was the first time I ever heard a song with curses in it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're saying that, But I was so intrigued by it. I was like, oh, this is so crazy, because before that, I mean, the music that I was exposed to, they weren't really cursing. Yes, the Fat Boys, and there were so many different kinds of, rappers back then. But Big Daddy Kane came on the scene, and it just started to change a lot of music, especially here in New York. Where, I shouldn't say here in New York, because I'm in Jacksonville, but New York is always with me. But back then, the variety of music and hip hop itself was changing. It was becoming something else besides just breakdancing to it. Grandmaster Flash was a big influence of mine, and watching him on TV for the first time, when he was being interviewed and what he did and how he did it, and he just he was so smart, and he gave a great description of what a DJ does, and it's just one of those things that it just stuck with me.
Besides the music, what was your childhood like? Was it dangerous in New York back then, where you lived, or were you kind of contained, your family kind of really watched over you?
It was definitely dangerous. I mean, growing up in those days, there was gangs, there was a lot of violence, a lot of drugs. New York in the 80s was like Gotham City. It wasn't a safe place. It wasn't clean. It was gritty, it was super gritty. My dad would be working at night sometimes. He'd be a cabbie. Sometimes we would go see him, and then we'd take a train, and being on the train after like 7 p.m. was like the worst thing to do. We got mugged once. So it kind of sticks with you. But yeah, it was a scary place. New York was not somewhere where you wanted to be after a certain point,
Yeah.
So yeah. So
your dad played the drums, so you kind of got, I guess you kind of inherited.
He taught me how to play the drums. He taught me to play the timbales, and that's kind of how I got my rhythm. My parents always, we would always have parties. Everywhere we went, my family celebrated everything. So there was always a big party, and it was like 50, 60 of us would just come in, and we would just party, and we'd go to like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Ecuadorians are nuts. But we would go there, and my parents would make me dance, and I hated it. I didn't want to dance in front of anybody. They would just push me and be like, you have to dance, and make you dance with your cousins. Mm-hmm. After a while, you just got to getting used to it. And they taught me how to dance salsa, merengue, and cumbia, all these different songs, and I was learning break moves from my older cousins, you know, my cousin George and Giovanni, Celia, all of them. They were all into the new pop music back then. You know, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Prince, you know, was also part of it. You know, Lisa and the Cult Jam. You know, so it was one side of the young people where I was being exposed, you know, to Todd Terry on one side from my, you know, cousins and stuff, and then on the other side, my parents and my other older, you know, people that were older in my generations, they were basically showing me all the Latin stuff. So I was always getting exposed by music. But my dad taught me how to play the drums, and he used to play his records to the drum, and that's kind of how I started. He would put on a record,
Nice.
he'd play a drum, play the drums to it, you know, put his own swing to it, and then he would be like, okay, now you do it. And so I would just listen to it, and that's kind of how I learned rhythm, you know, and then learning how to dance also helped, believe it or not, you know, to be on rhythm, to be on step with the music.
Yeah. So that was something you saw with him playing the drums to a record. Was that kind of I guess I'm trying to get to where you actually wanted to like get on some turntables. Like, was there like something you saw?
It was the fact that he had so many different records, and he would always play them, and so we would play with them. But what really got me was not just playing the drums to the music, but the song itself. So he was always playing different music for me, and because he did that, I was always listening to the radio. I was always listening to his records, and he had this Fisher turntable set with the equalizer and the double cassette, and then it had a space for records on the bottom, and at the very top it had this glass top, and that's where the turntable was. And I would play his records, and I was always trying to mimic what I had seen DJs do, like in the block parties or on TV, you know, scratching the record up. And I would be messing up his needles because those needles or that turntable wasn't meant for that, you know. And it wasn't direct driven, you know. It wasn't like a direct drive turntable where you can do that. So, you know, watching other DJs do that really upset me that I couldn't get that same sound out of this turntable, and I was getting frustrated. I just kept trying, always breaking his needles. And my dad one day came home to play a record, and like it must have been like the fourth or fifth time, he kept on saying, "Who's breaking my needles? Why are my needles broke? I just got these, you know?" And I fessed up. You know, I was upset. I had talked to my mom about it, and she was like, "You need to tell your father what you've done." And I fessed up. I told him, I said, "I'm sorry, Dad. I was the one that's been breaking your needles. I'm trying to scratch on the record." He's like, "Son, the records are not meant to be scratched. They're meant to be played." You know, he didn't get it. Mm-hmm. For him, his concept of scratching a record made no sense. And I was like, yeah. I was like, DJs do that. I was like, there's people that are doing that on the streets, on TV. I hear it. I like the way it sounds. And at first he didn't get it until I was watching some show, and I don't remember where it was. I think it was Soul Train or one of those things where they showed the DJ for a little bit, and he was doing a quick little scratch, and then the song came on, and I said, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" It was a Saturday, and I remember like it was clear as day that he was like, "Oh, I see." Oh, he's like, "Yeah, I've seen I hear music that they're using that in the music now," and I said, "Yeah, I want to learn how to do that."
Yeah.
So he finally was like, "You know what? If you graduate with good grades and you do your confirmation," because I'm Catholic, he said, "I'll throw you a big party, and it wasn't my confirmation. It was either my confirmation or my communion." He says, "I'm going to buy you a set.
Okay.
I'm going to buy you the turntables, the mixer." He bought the speakers and amp. I'm already saying he bought them. Obviously, he got them for me. Yeah. I went. I got good grades. I finished, my religious duties, and he threw a big party for me. And it was amazing. It was the first time I got to play all these different records that he had, and it was my door had opened to a new world of saying, okay, now I get to buy records that I want, and I'm going to start learning how to play on these things. And that's really what kept me home all the time, especially back in those days. My parents didn't let me go out into the streets. They didn't want me to get into trouble, even though I did.
What was the first record that you bought for yourself?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. I mentioned NWA because my cousin had it. He had a 45 of it, of like 2 singles, and then he had the cassette, the whole album, and that's actually how I heard it. I want to say it was Slick Rick, Mona Lisa.
Okay.
Was the first record that I actually went out and bought. Mm-hmm. I think it was Slick Rick, Mona Lisa, and it had Mona Lisa was on one side, and The Show was on the other side with Dougie Fresh.
Yeah.
Actually, we should play that later.
That's a great record to have. Do you still have it?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of my records. Actually, I have them in storage right now, which is sad. I should be bringing them out, but
Yeah.
yeah, I still have my records.
Okay. When when you, I guess, started to DJ, were you just natural at it? Like when you actually got on some turntables, did you like, I just had this natural ability. I'm like scratching, doing my transformers and everything.
No,
No?
no, and it wasn't that you know what it was is that I may have had the rhythm for music, but I didn't have the movements yet, and I also didn't have the technique for learning how to scratch or doing any of that stuff, and the setup wasn't right, the setup wasn't right. I had the rubber mat on the turntable when DJs didn't have rubber mats on their turntables, they'd have slip mats, and I used to take the slip cover from a record and I would trace it with a marker and I would cut that and I'd get 2 slip mats out of that. My cousin George actually had told me about that, and that's how I realized that I was doing it wrong. And then obviously learning how to weigh the needle and all the different things for balancing the tone arm, all that stuff was just stuff that I picked up through the years, growing up.
What type of turntables? What brand did you get?
There were Technics.
Yeah.
The first one actually, I
Nice.
believe there were Geminis. I had gotten some Geminis and I didn't like them, and I told my dad about it, and then he went and got Techniques after that.
Oh man, you told your dad like, Dad, these aren't good.
I was like, Dad, these are not the ones that I wanted, because he went out and bought them. I remember going back, and he had to go back anyway because we had an amp, and the amp system itself, one of the channels had gone on it. It was like a big amp and had these big needles. It looked really fancy with all these lights. And it just, I don't know what brand it was, but it broke. And so we had to bring that one back anyway. And so I was just like, Dad, do you think we can get some different turntables? And he was like, we had only used them once. It was for that party.
Okay.
And that's where the channel blew, at that party.
Oh, geez.
So we had to bring it back anyway. It was in the Bronx off of Fordham Road. I remember clear as day, us walking back with all this gear, and they took it back. The guy was like, he knew my dad, so he hooked him up.
My first record was LL Cool J, Bigger and Duffer.
Oh, yeah.
That was in first or second grade, like 87 or 88. I asked for that for Christmas. So my dad,
Was that the album with the booming system on it?
no, I think that was on radio.
That was on the radio.
Yeah.
On the radio.
Yeah,
okay.
so this was I'm Bad, I Need
I'm
Love.
Bad. Yep.
I forget all the other ones. But I didn't have a lot of records. I wasn't DJing. I was only a little kid, but I got introduced to rap music from someone on the block, because my parents, my dad, he's a white dude with long hair. He listened to classic rock, Queen and the Police and all that stuff. My mom, who's from Vietnam, she likes to dance. So she was into disco music. But then, like I kind of caught wind of Run DMC and Beastie Boys and LL. I'm like, man, I love this music, and it was just like, this is what I want more of. So I got that one record, but then, years later, when I was a teenager and I started to DJ, and one of my friends who DJ'd with me. So my nickname is Scott Free, and my other friend, his nickname is Fatty. So when we were together, we called our DJ group Fat Free Productions.
Oh, okay, I like that.
So, and I was the best DJ out of us. So we were doing like house parties and all that stuff, just young teenagers and then college kids, and having a good time. And every time I would take a break, he kind of step in for me, and he would just be like, not mixing songs right, trying to scratch, and just like all jumbled up, and we're like, Scott Free, you need to get back on there, man. Fatty's like, messing up killing the vibe, because he's just not. And not that I was great, but I was a lot better than he was. But when I graduated college in 2001, I tell people I retired from DJing, because in 2001 when I got my degree, I thought it was the best decision to make was to put this little hobby passion down and actually go into corporate America and have a real career. And that's what I did for since 2001. But when I did that, all of the gear I had, so by that time I was using CDJs. We still had turntables, but I barely used them to DJ. But I gave all of the gear, the turntables, my CDJs, my mixer, all the crates and crates of albums, all the crates of CDs to my friend Fatty, because he moved down to Lauderdale. So he moved to Florida, and then I didn't really hear about what happened to any of this stuff. So the other day when I told him I was like getting some new, some turntables and stuff, I wanted to see if he still had the records. I'm like, hey man, do you still have all the records that I gave you like 20 years ago? And he said, man, when one of the hurricanes came through in the early 2000s, the closet that he had all the stuff stored in, like the ceiling came down, and it basically ruined everything. So there's no legacy left of all the records and everything. And not that there was a lot, but like my original LL Cool J album was part of that stash and everything. So
Sorry to hear that, man.
yeah, but I've checked eBay to see if I could find, and there's plenty of them for sale on eBay. So I'll probably pick one up. But man, back to your story. So you didn't like the Geminis, you got the Techniques, you got the 1200s. So now you're kind of getting in. When did you actually do a gig? Like, was there like just years of just playing around, or when did you know, man, I'm good at this, and people started taking notice? Tell that story of how you kind of started to make a name for yourself.
I think it started, for me, it was never, I only did it for the love of music. I never did it for any other reason. I just wanted to, entertain and enjoy the music. So I kept doing it, and I did it every day. I mean, I'd come home from school. It was the first thing I wanted to do was get on there. Obviously I had to do my homework, I'd grab a snack, and then boom, I'd be on it. Playing the music, I remember clear as day, and I was living in Yonkers at this point. We lived on the 6th floor of, in Jefferson Terrace, off of Jackson, I think it was Jackson Avenue in Yonkers, not too far from Riverdale. And so we would, I would play music out, to the people in the streets, which were basically the drug dealers and people that just kind of hanging out on the streets, near the buildings, and they were my audience, So it kind of started from there, where I started to get props from the people on the streets, because I would go down to the store. There was a store. It was like we had like 2 or 3 bodegas around me. I had one up the hill, one directly across the street, and another one right down the street from me. It was all a hill. And I had my choice, my pickings, but I would go to the one literally across the street, and these guys would always, they'd know who I was. Like, yo, little man, come over here. They'd call me over, and they'd be like, yo, play that song again, or what was the name of that record? They knew who I was. So I would go up there, and I would just, play music for them. And it was always constantly, they'd always scream out, play that again, play that again. So, I mean, that was my first, it wasn't my first paid gig, but it was my first audience.
Yeah.
They were my first audience. There'd be kids out there playing, and they were my audience.
I'm imagining a little DMX and Jadakiss, because I think they're from Yonkers. Yeah. I imagine them in the streets while you're out there.
There were people had those circles. I mean, there was a lot of those, people within those circles that were, hanging around Yonkers, and, they were in the motorcycle gangs, they were doing all these different things in Yonkers. And New York, I mean, overall, even though we were Yonkers, Westchester up north, it was New York. Yeah. We were so close to the city. We were 20 minutes crossing over, cross over the bridge to Henry Hudson, and we were there. And we were also on the borderline of the Bronx. Bronx and Yonkers are close to each other. But having, that motivation from people to tell me, yo, keep playing that or play that again, gave me this insight of okay, I'm playing good music. These people are liking the music that I'm picking. And I didn't have lots of money, so I had to save my money to go and buy records, or I would take them out from the library. I'd go to the library and I'd go hunting through their record selection, and I'd bring back obscure stuff. I remember having the Huey Lewis album, Huey Lewis and the News. I had Wham in there, I had all these other records that I didn't want to buy, but I wanted to listen to, and I'd bring them home. My dad loved it. He loved that I would bring all these different types of records home, but the ones that I really wanted to own were obviously hip hop stuff, and I would buy anything that they would let me listen to in a record store in this place called Getty Square. There was a record store right next to the library, actually, and that was my go-to. I'd always be down there looking for stuff. But my first gig really came out after I went to college. I never really got paid for DJing. It was just like you said. You were doing the parties, and I was doing a lot of parties. I was doing high school parties, college parties with my friends and stuff. But my first gig didn't happen till after I left. Like you would say, I didn't leave for, say, DJing, but I stopped doing it because I wanted to pursue a career. I wanted to go to college. I didn't think I could make any money off of it. I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was just doing it because I loved it. I didn't say, oh, I'm going to be a DJ. It didn't work out that way. But it was in the stars, man.
It was.
I came back to it. I went to college. Had a few jobs, working in corporate America. My last job was a marketing analyst. for this women's catalog in Connecticut. I'm not going to get into that, but I just know that it all happened for a reason. The company got bought out, it got dissolved. I chose not to stay with them, and I bumped into a friend, Jason, and my friend Jason, who used to date my sister, was kind of like, it was serendipitous because I had taught him back in the days during my college years how to DJ, and he just kind of kept with it. You know, he made some friends and connections in the city, and he hooked me back into it, and that's kind of how I got into it, you know. So shout out to him and all the other DJs that look out for other DJs or people that are wanting to be DJs, because that's important, especially in this industry, is to, you know, help other people out. Don't, you know, like for me, my persona and my beliefs are all one thing. I'm not, you know, trying to be one thing or another. I really do believe in that. I believe in passing it on and, you know, the knowledge, and it's all individualistic anyway. When we do it from our heart. I do it from how I am. I'm my own persona and how I express myself as a DJ. So he was able to do that for me. He gave me a booklet of CDs, and because I had records, I didn't even know how to play on CDs. By the time I got back into it, which was like early 2000s, I think it was like 2002 is when I got back into it. 2001, 2002 is when I said, I'm going to try my hand back at this, you know, and I started to go out with him and make connections. And
was it easy to pick up how to mix on CDJs?
It had a learning curve. It had a learning curve because I was so used to big vinyls in front of me, 12-inch vinyls, and they went to these little dials that were like the Denons. I forget what it was, but it was like this. I don't remember the model, but it was like this long thing that they had, and it had the digital markers and all the little press play, and it didn't have a lot of movement. Let's just say you couldn't really scratch on those things. So I had to learn how to use them, But once I got it, it clicked.
Yeah.
Mixing and finding the selection of music is, some of the most important things. Curating your list is important. Mixing obviously is important too, and then having the ability to, especially in New York, mix it up with music, because New York is such a big melting pot. So some of the clubs that I used to play at, they had such a diverse crowd, and it was just constant changing, playing different genres and trying different mixes and different music. So
yeah, I learned that too when I was in college. I went to this rural, preppy, liberal arts private school in the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and I grew up in the projects. I'm, even though I'm half white, half Asian, but I was just a hip hop rap guy, hardcore hip hop. And when I started to get booked to do these parties for these sororities, I would just be in there playing my hip hop music, and they're like, "Can you play some like some Britney Spears?" So this is like boy band era. "Can you play some jitterbug music?" I'm like, "What? What's jitterbug music?" And it's I can't even think of a song. So I had to learn. So I learned something. I learned a business lesson there too, to know your customer.
Yep.
Know what your customer wants, and give them what they want. So it was definitely a growth experience for me. And then I got well-rounded, and I started to mix other genres together as best as I could, and that was kind of my style. Was like drop mix. I just knew how to play like the right song, and really kind of keep the party going, at a real high level. But you have your website is puremixdj.com, and you kind of list some of the things you did. I mean, you've done some like really cool stuff. So you started in clubs in New York, and then I know you moved around a little bit, and then you done some like international stuff. So what? Talk about some of the cool gigs that you've done.
It all started in New York, obviously in Gaslight, this place that I got residency for, and that was a place that, and I love house. So I didn't mention that before, but when I was growing up, some of my records were also like house music, break beats and stuff like that. So I was really into that. So the fact that I was able to throw that into the mix, especially at a place like Gaslight, which was, in the meatpacking district, it was world renowned. A lot of people knew about the place. It's no longer around, unfortunately, but that was like my home, and I think that's where it all started for me. I started to get connected to people that were in the movie industry, people that were in the music industry that used to come there. There was some people that were in the movie industry that were actually associated with the club, the bar lounge that it was, and just kind of, making those connections. And that's important too. Obviously, diversifying, playing to your audience is important, because then they'll keep you there, because if the bar can make money, then they want to keep you there, you know. And in New York, it's just there's a line out the door of DJs trying to get in, you know. And if you can hold a crowd and the bar's making money, the bartenders are making money, then you got yourself a home. And so because I was able to do that, I was able to make a lot of different, connections, and I was, going in all these different private events, and it kind of took off from there. I started to leave the club night a little bit, more like a part-time thing, and I started to really focus on myself and my business as a DJ. And I really started to say, okay, I need to market myself. And the person that really motivated me was actually Shannon, my wife. When I met her at Gaslight too, and she's such a smart woman, smart person. She's always very, very business savvy, and she just kind of pushed me and motivated me to say, you're not just a DJ, you're a really good DJ, you're a great DJ. And I never wanted to listen to that. I kind of just was like living it up, working in the nightclubs. I worked 5 nights a week, Tuesday through Saturday, every night. I was a DJ for over 10 years, never really saying, I'm going to go somewhere else. I was just enjoying it. I loved being in the city. I loved jumping around to all these different clubs and just partying all night, but it eats you up, and eventually thinking about the future and how to make those connections, that's kind of one of those things. And so one of my first international ones was St. Thomas when I went to the Virgin Islands. I made a connection out there while I was there, actually, and they told me, they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of you. I've been to Gaslight. He says, I love the way you played. It was just a weird coincidence that this person was staying at the hotel, and he was like, I'm going to talk to the owner. I'm going to have him play. He says, because they had a DJ here the other night, and you're so much better than him. So the following night, I met him and the owner. I got to play there. So I actually got a gig the night of while I was there. The night before, I was out there with Shannon in St. Thomas. But my connection with going into fashion shows and things like that was through a lady named Blanche. She used to work for Calvin Klein, and that was really the first boost, I think, is that I had. I was like, okay, now I'm doing stuff with a major corporation, and between that I started doing things with like Reebok and the ASPCA and Health First. All these big companies were networking, they were giving my card out. They were asking, hey, who is that DJ? And so it kind of just, word gets around, when you start building up that, that clientele and stuff. So it just keeps going, man. If you continue to dedicate yourself to it, and you're always there to play for the crowd, give the crowd what they want, then you're constantly going to be booked. You're going to always be busy,
Let's talk about how you got your name, DJ PM. What's the origin of that?
DJ PM actually before I even had PM, it was always Jesus Vivar. I just had my name. I tried to make up my own name, but it didn't work out very well. And it's true that sometimes it just comes naturally, or somebody will give you the name. I was given the name by accident. I think somebody had told me that my mixes were pure. They were like, your mixes are pure. You should just go by DJ, Pure Mix, or something like DJ Pure Mix or something like that. And I didn't like it, but I was like, I ended up opening up my DJ company called Pure Mix DJ, and people started to call me PM, like, because my logo had PM on it. So they were like, hey, DJ PM, and so it stuck. And nice. So that's how I started. People just remembered it that way. So DJ PM came about when I started. Pure Mix DJ was the name of the company. People started calling me DJ PM instead of DJ Pure Mix. So awesome. It's still stuck.
So I met you has it been a year? Maybe about a year ago.
Yeah.
So I've been in the same building since April of 2022, and you guys been here a few years.
Going on to our 2nd year in January.
Oh, okay. So coming up on the 2-year anniversary. And this whole studio, you guys basically did a full remodel. Talk a little bit about the studio and what you guys did, and all the different rooms and all the offerings that you guys have.
So when we came here, we purchased this condominium suite, it's a business suite, and we had to do a full reno from floor to ground. I mean, from floor to ceiling, we basically tore everything down, like the old sheetrock, and got the whole thing sound insulated. So each room has different purposes. We have a podcast room that's for up to 4 people. We have another one that's for up to 2 people. They are all capable of online conferencing and video recording for your content. And then we have suites like this one, which is a lounge. It could be used for commercials, which we've done in here as far as DJ lessons, the mentorship programs that we have, even karaoke in the evening we do in this room. We have a recording studio, which is at the lab. And we also have a vocal booth. I mean, every room has its own purpose, but they're all working together in conjunction, you know. So you can come in as an artist, you can come in as an entrepreneur, or as a business to kind of create things that you need for your own marketing or social media or your, you know, creative content that you need.
Yeah. So, you know, I run a construction real estate development company, and, you know, I'm more of an entrepreneur than anything. And one of the things that I felt like I was really dropping the ball on just from owning a company was doing just general marketing and advertising, and not even the kind of what you have to do to be current in today's age is like social media and making content. So I started to finally get on the ball and, you know, really investing money into marketing and advertising. And then when I wanted to, you know, I was looking at these other entrepreneurs that I follow, and they're making content, you know, YouTube videos, you know, a lot of just short form videos, long form videos. I'm like, you know, I need to start doing that. So I started looking around, you know, do I want to do it myself and build my own little, you know, my own little setup in my office? I'm like, you know, that might take too long and everything. And then I started looking, you know, just doing a general search for, you know, like a studio. And sure enough, I found you guys in the same building. So you guys are on the 6th floor, we're on the 9th floor. And I look at your website and I'm like, man, this is phenomenal what these guys got going on. So I remember hitting you up a little over a year ago, about November, December, and I was laying out this plan of what I wanted to do and everything. And you guys had, you know, you had the rooms with the beautiful decor, you had the audio, you had the video. And, you know, I just, you know, sign up with one of your monthly memberships, and we come down, you know, a couple times a month, you know, for a few hours a month, and we just like shoot some content and stuff like that. So
thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you guys, you offer a phenomenal service and, you know, great quality. And then we, you know, I was doing a video, and I knew you DJ'd, you know, when we first met, and I'm sure when people tell you like I used to DJ, I bet you think, well, yeah, maybe, you know, because, you know, you're like the real deal. So
we all got to start somewhere, for sure.
So then I was in here actually with another friend of mine, a DJ, and I did a video podcast with him, DJ Titus, shout out to him. And it was a Friday night, and we recorded this podcast, and you were here like cutting it up on the techniques and everything, and, you know, you were like, hey man, you guys want to mess around? And, you know, you let us like play around a little bit. And I knew you had the DJ mentorship program, because I think you mentioned it to me a couple times, but just kind of jumping on there that night, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take you up and join, and it's been a fun ride. So 2 parts with that. One is after, so I've done about 4 or 5 lessons now. I think I may have gotten a little bit better.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. You know, you can, you know, pump my ego up and say, yeah, man, you got a lot better.
You have. I mean, you've been listening, you've been practicing, you know, so you've come along. I mean, you already had a good foundation already. So
talk about what that mentorship program is, because I think, I asked you a question, but I'm going to say this before I let you answer. But it sounds like you just had this passion of helping people. Like you mentioned the person who got you into Gaslight in the club, you helped him DJ, you know, he's like, you know, dating your sister, and you just mentioned, you know, that's something that is important to you. And was that part of why you got into like wanting to teach others how to DJ?
I always had somebody, you know, I was fortunate enough to have somebody in my life, like my dad, start to teach me things, you know, and so I've always had people and I was always willing to learn. I was, you know, just curious. I had a curious mind to learn how to do different things, and even till now, to this day, I'm still learning things. I learned how to connect car radios, and, you know, I learned how to do, you know, computer graphics, and it's just a variety of things that I always want to learn. So I just have so much, I felt like I had so much opportunities to learn things from people that were in my life that I wanted to kind of just do the same thing with something that I knew, then hopefully somebody would want to learn. And so it's just kind of giving back. It's just the way I am, you know,
Nice,
just want to just
nice.
get back.
So what is the, I know what it is, but for those who don't know, what is the DJ mentorship program?
The DJ mentorship program is basically cater to whoever comes in that wants to learn different techniques. And so you can be a straight up beginner, never done it before, or you can have maybe just some, some practice to it where you've done it before a few times, but you kind of want to sharpen up a few skills. And so I go look based on that. I kind of build the program around the first levels that I'm going to teach you. So we touch on hardware and what the hardware is, the different connections, the software itself that we use, which is Serato. And we also teach, scratching skills. I teach, scratching as well, and mixing, and the fundamentals, and the music theory and the mix theory that goes behind that as well.
Yeah, for sure. The mix theory. Is that part of how the origin of the Mix Theory Studios came about?
Actually, it was a term that I had heard Grandmaster Flash say at one point when he was talking about, his mixing skills and the different techniques that it takes. And I'm not going to say that I coined the term, but the actual philosophy behind this studio is that it is a combination of things that we do besides just music. We do voiceovers. I mean, there's just podcasts, and it just continues and continues. So the theory behind it is mixed theory, and then obviously music. Music has a lot to do with it as well. So
for sure. So part of that, me joining the mentorship program and actually learning the bedrock foundations of how to scratch, starting with the baby scratch, how to really work the crossfader, things that no one ever really taught me. So I wasn't really good at scratching. And I had a friend who had 1200s, and he was a little bit older than me, a guy I used to play basketball with, and he died in, riding his bike, got hit by a car. Mm-hmm. I just remember he just was just so nice at like scratching, and these were like, real vinyl, not like today where you got the time card record, where it's all, you can do DVS, but he had basically doubles of everything, and he'd just be like mixing back and forth, and then he let me jump on, and I couldn't even produce anything that sounded like remotely like a scratch, and it was just so hard for me to kind of pick it up. So I just, I was like, man, I was just getting so frustrated with it. But then since I got down here with you, you kind of really slowed it down and said, hey, this is what you do, and it's a lot easier now when you can get your cue points at the right place, so there's a lot of the advancement in the technology and the software makes it a lot easier than what it was. But you didn't have all that when you started, so that's pretty phenomenal. Kind of the journey of where things are now to where it was, 30 years ago. But part of me joining the mentorship program, I'm like, all right, now I got to get some gear, and so that's kind of what we have here. So I've invested some money in this, and I probably got some of the coolest gear that's out there.
This is the latest and the greatest right here that you have. So this is awesome. I'm excited to see these and to open these up as well. So.
Yeah, so we're gonna do like a little bit of an unboxing. This isn't an unboxing video, but I thought it would add some cool things to this video. But so yeah, these are the PLX Cross 12s. These are the new hybrid new hybrid turntables that you can do the analog with the regular vinyl record, or you can switch it over to the DVS. So these just came in the other day, so we're filming this right after Thanksgiving, and so I ordered them, and I knew they were coming in. I was excited for it, so I've been waiting on this day to come down here with you to open these up. So
I'm honored that you're letting me be in the grace of these new gears.
So here's a live look, man. We're opening this up, and then this is the battle mixer, the DJM S11, it's an upgrade from the S9, where it actually has the display. Yep. So you can watch not only can you watch your what do they call it?
Music waves?
Yeah, the waveforms, but you can do a lot of other stuff with it too. So you pop that open, I'll pop this open, and we'll see what we got in here. Okay, help me with the name of all the parts, because I know some of them, but so it just drops like that.
It'll lock in if you have so there's these pieces here.
Oh, okay, gotta line it up.
Yeah, so you see
Oh, so that lines up with these, that.
Yeah, so
okay,
you put
gotcha.
That.
Gotcha. Here you go. It is. All right. Cool. Then got some cables.
Got some RCA cables here, and then you have a USB.
Is there another box over there? It's right there. Yeah. Oh, so it has a, what do they call those? Deck saver?
Yeah, that's nice. Came with one. I'm glad that they did.
I wonder if the mixer came with a deck saver.
That
I
I
usually saw this sold separate.
doubt, but the turntables definitely come with them. I still have my originals. Yep. See there. So you see, this is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
This is the same material that they would use.
Oh,
when
the inside of the albums?
Yeah, exactly. There's a little slip cover for the records.
Should we use that now?
Yeah, I would
For
use
old
that.
time's sake?
I would definitely put that on
Definitely put
there.
that on there? Okay.
But I used to cut mine out of the original ones, and that's what I would use.
So fully unboxed, this is a setup. It's a lot heavier. Oh my goodness. I was not expecting it to be this heavy.
It's nice. I like it. I can't wait to try it out. I'm sure we could do a video with us actually playing it. Because the next thing we need to open up is this mixer. I like that they have an individual plug. It just, disconnects this regular power plug. Mine is actually connected to it, and the RCAs are too. So it's nice to have these separate, interchangeable. Actually has the ground on there too. Look at the ground.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Nice, nice. Yeah, man. So we're gonna get the mixers opened up. We'll get the other one opened up later. Don't necessarily need needles right now because we can use the DVS. It has this beautiful Magvel clamp that basically you don't even need a timecode record to scratch. This thing is tuned somehow to the software, and you can just mix with anything. You don't even need a record to mix the scratch.
I have some. Put some on there.
Yep.
And I got some needles too.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's break open this mixer and see what that bad boy looks like. All right, so let's get this DJ S11 mixer open.
Yeah. I'm glad you got a case for it. Since we can have the whole thing connected, and then we will definitely be shooting a video with this whole setup.
I just thought getting a coffin case, just keeping everything together. I mean, can you keep all the wires connected, or you have to disconnect? So you could just basically close it up and just need to plug in power in your computer, and you're ready to go.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what I just want an easy setup.
I think the case is it a Pro X that you got?
Yeah.
That case has the actual shelf on it for the laptop, so you just plug the laptop in, run the cable there, and you're done.
Nice, nice. All right, so we got a bunch of stuff here. This is just one piece.
Yep.
So
We
this
got a
should be easy.
registration card, directions, power cable, USB cable. Get that out of the way.
Okay.
I love the smell of new equipment.
Oh, me too.
Wow,
This
look at
is
that
the
thing.
first time I ever got new equipment. Well, I guess in 20 years. Geez, this is bigger than what I thought. I knew it was going to be bigger than because you have an S9.
I have an S9. It's definitely longer, taller, I should say. It's just it's really nice.
That's crazy.
It's got the same kind of casing a little bit with the piano black on top. It's got the CDJ controller, so that's probably where you're going to connect your Pioneers into these, the PLXs.
Okay. So you have to do both. Is it two? So you got to do the
left and the right.
left and the right, but also for the analog with the ground.
Yeah, so the RCA cables would get plugged in here if you want to play vinyl. You're going to definitely.
Okay, so you just go ahead and get it all plugged in case
just
you
have
do.
it plugged in, and then that's
Makes
it.
sense.
You're ready to go, especially if you're going to have it in the coffin. And then you have two USB for DJ, so you can have two different laptops, one on each channel. I love it. It's just like the S9 minus these CDJ controllers.
Awesome. So then that plugs in USB to the laptop.
And that one goes right into your laptop.
Is this USB A or C? USB A. Oh
Yeah.
crap. So I got a Surface Pro. Do I have to get?
No, this goes in to your laptop.
Yeah, but I only have USB-C connected.
You have USB. Yeah, they have tons of adapters.
get an adapter.
I have a ton of them. Actually, I'm going to be doing videos on them, so we'll do some
Okay.
shorts and different tips and tricks.
Okay, how's that cross fader feel to you?
It's got a Magville fader, man. These, oh God, that's nice.
Feels good.
Yeah, that's buttery smooth too. Wow, I love that. Yeah.
But I look like a pro. I look like a pro now.
Almost there, almost there. Let's keep practicing.
Awesome.
We can't wait to get this connected so we can mess around with
Yeah,
it.
man. So we got the 8 pads. We got the flip. What are these called? The
I just call them toggles.
toggles.
Yeah, effect toggles.
Effect toggles. Sweet. Awesome. All right, that's the unboxing of the S11 DJM S11 for Pioneer. So how many years experience do you have now scratching?
Scratching and DJing are different. I started when I was about 12 years old, and oh gosh, I'm 47 now. But
So 25?
it's been
35.
almost 30
Yeah,
years.
35.
Is it
12.
35? Oh my God.
12 minus
35
47,
years.
35 years.
35 years since I started to get on the turntables. I learned how to scratch really when I was going in through high school and college. I remember going to college with my friend Will, who's also a DJ Willie one time. Shout out to him. He's in the Bronx. And me and him would practice. He and I would practice in his basement with his equipment. And we would just practice scratching. So around that 17, 18 years old is when I started to really get into more scratching. You know, I was perfecting the mix more than anything. I hadn't really learned scratching until I started to mess around with him.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I thought, man, when you got your techniques, when you and your dad.
I tried as best as I could. I wasn't the best, it takes time.
Yeah.
And even scratching takes a lot of time to learn, even some of the basic stuff. And it's practice. And I did learn how to scratch. I just didn't really get into more like the beat juggling or any kind of like additional, little scratches here and there. Before I would be able to drop, I'd be able to mix, baby scratches here and there. But now I'm, definitely from where I started, back then.
Who's your favorite DJs? Like, who do you get inspiration from?
Scratch Bastard is awesome. Q-Bird is awesome. I love DJ Icy. I used to listen to him. Funkmaster Flex. God, there's so many. I can't even really say. Obviously, Grandmaster Flash to me was the first DJ that I got to see really do his thing, and then it all branched out. I give respect and love to all the DJs that are out there doing things. I've been inspired by not just hip hop DJs, but also other DJs, and producers like Paul Oakenfold, Moby. Those guys, that were always trying new things. And, because I used to listen to house music and trance music also. It wasn't just one thing. It was even Latin influences, the same thing. So DJ-wise, there wasn't an open format DJ. Actually, I shouldn't say that. That DJ AM, God rest his soul, DJ AM was one of the first party rockers that was able to really open the doors to this whole open format thing and mixing it up with a variety of genres. And so, he was one of those pioneering DJ that when I was in the scene, when I was in the clubs, he was doing it in Vegas back in those days, So there's too many to name, but shout out to all the DJs that keep moving forward.
DJ Paris Hilton.
Oh
yeah, I think everyone's a DJ.
I haven't really listened to her DJ, to be honest with you.
On a serious note, when I would listen to my first LL Cool J album, and you hear Cut Creator, basically LL be on the beat, and then at the end of the song, Cut Creator is basically cutting up the tracks. I just love that.
Yeah, Jazzy Jeff was another one.
Yeah,
Jazzy Jeff is another DJ that I also looked up to. He's still to this day I look up to him. He's an amazing DJ.
Phenomenal. I love watching Jazzy Jeff, his YouTube videos of him. That was parents just don't understand. That was always one of my go-to songs I would play when I'm mixing, because it just had that beat, that iconic beat to that song. So when you're just here, I guess in your office, do you just get on, mess around for a little bit, or is it is it more intentional? Hey, I'm going to get on, or you just got that love where you just power up and just start messing around?
It's a combination of all of them, actually. I get an itch. Sometimes I have an itch and I want to get on it. Other times I'm kind of creating or curating a list for maybe a mix that I want to work on. Sometimes I'm going through my music just to kind of get my refresher. I'm always going through my music to, especially when I'm playing out and I have events and stuff that I want to play at, I'm always going through my music and going through my crates. It's one of those things that I encourage every DJ to do, not just, rely on just winging it, know, because you should know your music and you should always refresh your crates. You shouldn't be playing the same thing over and over and over.
Right, yeah. The crates and just your music selection is highly underrated. Like the technique of like knowing how to mix a beat and get the BPMs to kind of even out and all that. But you got to have fresh playlists, and all that stuff, because there's always new music coming out. For me, I'm more of a, when I decided I wanted to learn how to mix, I'm a 90s hip hop guy. So that's like the tracks that I want to be messing around with. That's what we've been practicing with. But I'm sure after some time of getting that down, I want to evolve and like get some of the newer stuff that's out there. I'm not saying I'm going to be DJing gigs or anything like that. Who knows?
You never know.
But what's the future for you? Like, what's the what you got going on with Mix Theory Studio? You with as a DJ and you as an entrepreneur, because we didn't even get into some of the other stuff that you do. Commercial real estate and things like that. But kind of in those areas, like what's the future hold for you?
I'm gonna take it day by day. I have future plans for the studio itself. I hope to continue to expand what we have and what we're doing here. Real estate is still a big thing. It's still part of my foundation as well. So maybe investing in a few things here, either in Florida or across the world. I hope at one point, because I want to travel. I love to travel. I love to be in new places and events. I continue to be involved in events, whether it be in the production side or the actual performance. I'm always trying to create new things, and this city has a lot of opportunities to collaborate with a lot of amazing people, a lot of creators and businesses. So that's kind of where I'm at with the future, the future of what we're doing. I'm never going to stop DJing. I tried to retire 3 times and it never worked. I just kept coming back to it, kept coming back into DJing. It's hard to leave, you love it, you do it, so yeah, it's just part of it.
Awesome. So you've been in Jacksonville for how many years now?
3.5.
3.5.
3.5. I'm going up to 4 years now, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been here eight years now. Similar story. I think we were both looking for when we're making our next moves, looking for a city, possibly Florida, that had opportunities. I decided, and I had some roots here, had some family who lived here as well, and I'm happy. I love this city. It's definitely growing. I know people have been waiting for decades for some growth to happen. I feel like it's really, really starting to take root and take off right now.
Yeah, I agree. That's the reason we wanted to open up this business here. The idea of Mix Theory Studios was kind of in its infant stages. The idea of being a DJ school was the original thing, and then that went into production as well, because I love producing. I want to continue that aspect of it, and we're making new music in the studio, stuff that's being played on the radio already, stuff that has been placed in shows.
Oh, so man, that's awesome.
We're going to continue to move in that front. Creating is what keeps me alive.
Yeah.
The love of music. Never
awesome.
Stop doing what you love.
Awesome.
Since I still rock the techniques, I still I love having new technology with the old stuff, so this is a great combination for what I need, especially for something like this in the studio. Then I have my Rain controller, my Rain 1, which this is the one that I'll take out and perform with this instead. Sometimes I'll take that, but for the most part, this is so much easier for me to use, and I love the way these feel almost as close to having a real turntable, just on a smaller platter.
And then everything is software is Serato. So
everything is software Serato based. You could use, I believe, maybe this works with Rekordbox. I don't know, since I don't use that, but Serato is what I mainly use, and to this day I still use it. I mean, I use controllers as well that are thumb drive driven, but to me, having Serato and all my music, especially when I'm playing out and playing to a crowd, it's just a little different, because I need to be on, I need to be a few steps ahead, so I can always constantly change the music and go through stuff, Yeah, it's just the way I play.
What year did you get these? You know how old these techniques are?
That one, these are the MK5s. So my original ones, I actually went with my dad at one point, my original ones, because I ended up upgrading to these. And I still have I have one of them, he has the other one.
Oh, okay.
The MK5, I believe I got these in 2007.
Okay.
2008 maybe? 2007, 2008.
They're still going strong.
These things are tanks, man. They're tanks, and
Yeah.
I've put them through his tests. I still try to keep them clean. I try to maintain them, you know. But yeah, they've been good. They've been good to this day.
So we're gonna let you do a little mix. Like, I want you to show off a little bit, but before we do that, we're gonna sign out. So this is Scott Free with Free Factor Podcast, special guest DJ PM. We're in Mixed Theory Studio. It's been an honor having you.
Thank you.
It's been great hearing your story, hearing about what you got going on and what you plan on doing in the future. So thanks again for coming on the episode.
I appreciate it,
And
Scott.
we'll do
Thank
some
you.
more lessons, and maybe in 6 months I might be able to hang with some lower level DJs. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
You got this, yo. You got this.